I love that we went with a red panda on that picture. Good job, Aaron. Humans have long been fascinated by animals, and why shouldn't we be? When I was a kid, I created my own superhero, named, very creatively, Animal Man. I would later learn that this is indeed a copywritten character owned by DC Comics, so if you're expecting a movie about my childhood adventures as Animal Man, I hate to break it to you, WB Discovery won't let me. But, I would have all of the different abilities of different animals. That was so fun for me. Just loved animals. And wouldn't you know it, Brio, who has no idea about this childhood past of mine as a vigilante, also has superheroes that he creates who have the powers of different animals. And one of his favorite shows is The Wild Kratts. For those of you who don't know, they're conservationists who are able to acquire the different powers of different animals, their creature powers. So we have a large appreciation for animals in my household, even though we don't have pets. Partially because I'm a no-fun allergy sufferer. Multiple forms of allergies. It's not just the fur and the dander, it's other stuff too, which make it less fun for me. But I grew up with animals. Love animals. I feel a kindredness, a connectedness with animals. And our spiritual predecessors, our faith ancestors, they did too. St. Francis of Assisi is probably the most famous Christian to speak about this familial type of connection with the created world, like in the quote that Todd had shared earlier. But he's not the only one, And part of what makes St. Francis notable, though, is that much of Christian tradition has been spent with a concern for us humans elevating ourselves over other animals, to the point that we forget that we too are creatures of this earth. We too are animals. And that's part of why I love a service like this, one that reminds us of our connectedness to the other entities of this world, our connectedness to our own creatureliness. One of the questions that I get asked from time to time is, do animals have spirits? And I get where this question's coming from because, I was raised with the belief that, no, of course not. We humans have spirits and, the animals can't. And the passage that gets pointed to is either Genesis 1 or Genesis 2. Look, God breathed into the dirt mounds that became Adam. And that word for breath is the same word that's used for both wind and spirit in Hebrew. It's the word ruach. And wouldn't you know it, that passage that was just read has the same word for animals. So if you believe that us humans carry this spirit breath of life from God, and you take it from this passage in the book of Genesis, I want to invite you to consider that the animals, too, according to our writer, are also said to have spirits. Which means, if you believe that these animals are innocent of wrongdoing anyway, I don't know, maybe there's a very sinister, evil cat out there. I wouldn't be the first to wonder such a thing, right? Maybe it's okay for us to think that all dogs go to heaven. Some of you may not know that movie, either because you didn't have kids my age, or you are younger than me, some of you at home. That movie didn't get the timelessness status that many other movies of the 80s got. And as I reflected on Scripture this last week, I also reflected on all the many times that passages are brought up where our writers are looking to the animals around us for instruction. In fact, Job 12 says, look, you need to look at the animals to learn about life. And you know what? Us humans have been doing that since we've come into existence. We look at our most ancient written records, right? The cave drawings. We're doodling animals. We're trying to understand animals. We're trying to understand ourselves and our connection to these animals, right? We learned a lot from the creatures around us. We wouldn't have planes if we never thought, maybe we should learn from birds, right? We wouldn't have, I believe anyway, I don't know, maybe an anthropologist can correct me on this, but I don't know if we would have wandered out into the oceans, the big, scary, horribly massive, forbidding oceans, if we hadn't looked at ducks, tortoises, fish, and wondered, well, what if we could get out there too? We learn a lot from the creatures around us. But it's not just, hey, how do we do some of the things that animals do well with their own creature powers? How do we have a creature power like that? We also learn a bit about how to be a creature in this world. Jesus points to the example of birds, swallows, in Matthew, when he's trying to urge his followers to not be so stressed out about life. Don't worry about tomorrow, Jesus says. Look at the swallows. God takes care of them. They eat every day. They don't worry about tomorrow. You should be like the swallows. Also in Proverbs, we have, look at the ants. Do you see how hard they work? You ought to work as hard as the ant. Do with that what you will. Be as wise as a serpent and as innocent as a dove. I love all of these things. They speak to me. I think they speak to us. In the ends of the book of Job, you may remember that Job goes through a lot of suffering in that book. He's wondering, why? Why have I suffered? He's trying to organize his worldview into such a way that he can make sense of the things, and he calls God to appear before him and plead his case as to why Job deserves all of this, or let Job plead his own case to God to explain why he doesn't. Hey, whatever I did, the crime doesn't fit the punishment, God. And then God does indeed appear to Job in the form of a whirlpool. That's not the right word. A tornado. Whirlpools are in the water. An air whirlpool, anyway, appears to Job and starts talking to him. And God starts pulling out all of these different examples of the animals that God has made. And he's pointing out the limitation of our understanding. You guys expect to know everything. Look at the horse, God says. Have you ever seen anything as awesome as a horse? Jesse, you've seen lots of horses. Look at how beautiful it is. Look at how it runs. And it can just keep doing that. It's incredible. Job, have you ever made anything as great as a horse? No? So why do you think you need to know everything? You shouldn't expect that. Some things you just can't know. There's been many times I've looked at animals, birds, crows in my park, pelicans diving down to grab a big bill full of fish. And I've been reminded of my place in the world. These animals will go on without us. They're going on in spite of us. It will probably go on after a human extinction event. Let's hope that doesn't happen anytime soon, right? They precede us. They will outlive us in this world. And yet, everything we do impacts them, just like so much of what they do impacts us. Which brings me to my last point that I really want to talk about. And that is that I also think animals teach us a bit about God. Now, we have some examples of rhetoric. Jesus says, "How I have longed to be a mother hen who could just sweep you up in my wings of protection, but you didn't want it." I could point to that. I think that's a beautiful analogy for God. But I also think we see it in our daily lives, so many of us, if we happen to have pets. Or if we had pets once upon a time. We get to see that we are capable of love, even if we've been heartbroken, right? And that we are lovable, even if we've broken hearts. And if we believe that God is love, if we seek to follow the God of love, I'm so grateful for the example of animals and for the pets around us that remind us you too are connected to the God of love, even as jaded as you may be in the different seasons of life, even when nobody else gets you. I want to share something that a congregant from Cedar Hills United Church of Christ wrote when his wife, Jan, of 50 years, died. She went through a very quick round of cancer, and it felt very, very unfair. And this is what he wrote. "Soxy is our young cat. She loves to be where people are and will greet new visitors with a friendly sniff. She does not generally rub against people or get into laps. She keeps a short distance away. Petting is at her choosing, and usually for short periods. When a group of people are gathered in a room, Soxy may circle the people, checking out each one, and then go off to one side, lie down, and watch the proceedings. When Jan became ill, Soxy spent more of her time near her, particularly on the bed as she rested. Soxy gave warmth and comfort, and maybe some loud purring. I see Soxy as a good metaphor of my belief in the ever-present God. God, like Soxy, is there most of the time, keeping watch over the people and their comings and goings. God, like her, is here all around and with us all the time, while only occasionally coming closer into our lives. When we have a problem or concerns or are ill, she draws nearer to us, giving us support and comfort. After writing this description, when I prayed for guidance and support to meet the stress and decisions in daily life, I saw in my mind Soxy just laying there, very alert and off to the side. This gave me assurance that God is there, listening. I hope we continue to learn from the animals around us. I hope that we can learn more about God, about our world, about ourselves. And I hope that we can be as good to our fellow creatures as the Soxies of this world are to us. I hope that we can shine out the love of God, not just to our fellow humans, but to all we encounter, including the animals among us. So at this time, I'm going to invite you to come forward. Thank you. I think Stephanie might be getting them. Get a picture ready on your phone if you happen to have a pet at home. I should have brought that up earlier. Bring a stuffy with you if you have a stuffy that you would like to have blessed. And as you come forward, one by one, I will share a blessing, a special blessing with that animal or the representative of the animal. And then you can return back to your seats. And as you come forward, Nikki and Jesse are going to lead us in a special blessing song.
Oh, how does the creature say peace?